Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and we're going to be going over the UFC card for this weekend. We're going to look at it from a DFS perspective today. Again, I might do a betting breakdown tomorrow, and we're certainly going to do a lineup construction video, uh, probably tomorrow night. It might have to wait till Saturday morning. We'll just have to see. Again, apologize for last week. I was just away and I couldn't take care of the lineup construction video. Actually ended up doing okay, pretty much by accident. Anyway, a couple of things to note. Number one is that it's a 4 p.m. start, which is kind of good for those of us who don't need to stay up till 1:30 in the morning to sweat this stuff. The other thing is that there is one fight left to be priced, and we're going to talk about that. Jared Gordon is fighting Rusev. I imagine related to the other Rusev. I'm not sure, but nonetheless, you have Jared Gordon at minus 300 versus Rusev's plus 260. So I guess the first thing that we can do is, think about where he's going to be priced. He, first of all, just going by win odds, he is going to be about the fourth most likely winner behind Cavalcante, Estevam, and Delgado, and Shabazian, so fifth most. So if we had to guess, probably would be, yeah, so here's the problem. Normally, they don't like to put fighters, two fighters have the same salary, but there's no way to get around it this week unless they made Gordon's 9,600, which they're not going to do. So I imagine he'll fall somewhere around here. Maybe you'll have two guys at 9,200, maybe two guys at 91. It could move him up to 93. I'm not sure, but definitely somewhere in here. Okay. The first thing I do want to talk about is the first fight of the night. Well, number one, it's the first fight of the night also because it's the highest priced fighter on the card, Jacqueline Cavalcante. And I mean, you'll note that, for better or worse, DraftKings, their algorithm uh, is not dynamic. In other words, it does not take into account the prop market, it does not take into account styles or anything like that. It just really just factors in the win odds and prices accordingly. Whoever has the highest win odds almost always is going to be the highest priced fighter, and so on. Every once in a while, you have these real wild outliers where someone is extremely likely to win, but they're not particularly likely to score that well. And so you have the situation where Jacqueline Cavalcante, big minus 700 favorite, but if you look at her inside the distance line, it's extremely poor. I mean, she's plus 450 to win by KO. She's just plus 300 to win inside the distance. So in the DFS streets, that's an extremely poor play. Now, when you run the Sims, we'll get to Friday. They might want you to play her, okay, because she's going to be low owned, and I mean she does have a ceiling outcome in there, but when we're analyzing who the best plays are, there's just no way to recommend her. She's a great fighter. She's a good technical striker. She has a very, very easy matchup here. Actually, she's really, really cool. Also, my daughter and I met her when we were in Vegas. She's really sweet. She has this great rooting section who screams for her. Our girlfriend's really, really nice. I mean, she's really somebody we root for, but hope she's not going to be upset that I have very little of her in DFS this week because her inside the distance prop is just not good enough. Which means also probably you're not going to play Julia Avila either. Number one, she's not very likely to win. And number two, Jacqueline Cavalcante is not going to be particularly high owned, if owned at all. So you're not going to get leverage. And moving up, we have Walter Walker versus Dontel Mays. A very sloppy heavyweight fight. Dontel Mays just is kind of a very, very mid-level heavyweight. And you have Walter Walker, who's sort of a mystery. Let's pull him up for a second. Where is Walker on this list? So in his first fight, he came in as a pretty big favorite against Lucas Brzeski, and the idea was that he was going to get takedowns. Well, he got his takedowns, and he got his control time, but that was it. And as a result, he lost, and he did score 56 points in the loss, but at 9,400, that's no help. And then against Tafa, he just got two takedowns, just dominated him on the ground, and ended up scoring really, really well. Uh, However, as we have seen, that win did not. Well, hold on. This is not Justin Tafa. This is Junior Tafa. But I would imagine that the entire Tafa clan is not very, very good with his with takedown defense. So I don't know about this. Him at 8,700, for him to get there, he's got to do something pretty similar. I mean, he's got to go for takedowns and win, and not or get a sub. And Dontel Mays, I mean, for what it's worth, probably not much. He's certainly been around the block. You know, he's got some wins, got some losses. You know, there's something to be said about surviving in the UFC heavyweight division for as long as he has. So I don't know if I'm going to go too crazy on the Walker stuff. Now, with that said, what I usually say is, okay, what if he did win? You know, if he does win, what does the Walker wins look like? And usually I would say something like, well, if he wins, it's going to be because he got a bunch of takedowns, and and that's going to score very well. But I'm not so sure about this. Walker in his fight against Bresky got four takedowns, but just did nothing with him. As opposed to his Tafa win where he dominated and subbed him. I just can't imagine that Dontel Mays is just going to just get run over here by this guy. I don't know. So in the absence of that variation, you have Walker's inside the distance line, which is plus 250, which is really just not very good. Um, I would love to make an excuse to play Mays here because his inside the distance line at plus 320 is not bad. Okay. And Walker, for whatever, it's not been particularly impressive, really. Um, and this is heavyweight. So I think that Dontel Mays is a pretty intriguing underdog on this card. Okay, so how are we going to play this? We're going to move up the card here? Yeah, let's do that. So now we get to, what's his name? Elijah Smith, first timer against Vince Morales. And the big news on this fight is the line movement. They tried to they released Elijah Smith, I believe, at plus minus 250 or something like that, and all the money came piling in on Vince Morales. Every once in a while, they just get it wrong on the opener. And unfortunately, unfortunately, DraftKings prices their fighters pretty early in the week before all the line movement comes in. So they priced this fight really before all this line movement came in, which is why you see Elijah Smith at 9,100 and Vince Morales at 7,100 is because they had him, originally like a plus, minus 275 favorite instead of the minus 140 or minus 160. Big adjusted 145 that he is right now. So already you have Vince Morales showing up as an extremely strong play, just on money line value at all. In addition to that, though, you have a big style advantage from a DFS perspective for Vince Morales. Not advantage over his opponent, but advantage over other fighters at the same price tag. He does go for, apparently, he does go for takedowns, and the Lapalus fight, I mean, was no exception. He did get two takedowns here. But this to me is a weird one. Like, to me, this is a fight where Vince Morales is going to be extremely popular. And, you have Elijah Smith, who is young, He does have upside because of his youth. And I don't know. I think this is pretty volatile. I mean, just to pile in on Vince Morales at what I think is going to be at least 30% ownership, I think is asking for trouble. I mean, I have to say. So on the numbers and in cash and in low risk, it's kind of hard to not play him. But in GPPs, I think this is going to be a pretty cool leverage spot. You have him at 9,100. You look at his inside the distance line. It's going to look pretty poor, I think. It's going to be, let's see. So Elijah Smith inside is plus 400. Okay. Plus 400, and he's 9,100. There's literally no reason on the money line there's no reason to play him at all on the numbers. But just because of that massive leverage, I think you're going to get, combined with the fact that you're going to have, you know, these really good looking 9Ks, which we're going to get to. I think that again, this is I usually save this for the uh, for the line of construction video, but I think Elijah Smith is going to be that mad scientist, leverage play of the week. I think we'll see. The other thing, by the way, is even though Elijah Smith is a minus 150 favorite, I mean, listen, it's down from minus 250. But if you go through like all the betting breakdowns available for free on X or on wherever, you're not going to find a single person taking Elijah Smith. I mean, even at the new plus 160, everybody's following this money line movement, and everybody's taking Morales. And I've just seen enough in my 537 million days on this earth to realize what's going to happen here. Anyway, let's move on. Chaos Williams against Gabrielle Bonfim. I think that this is another one where the underdog is probably going to take some money for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's got name value. I mean, we've been betting on Chaos Williams fights for quite a while now, and he usually is very aggressive. But I think he's got more of a reputation for being aggressive than anything else. Okay, so he did get the first round KO over Carlston Harris. Before that, it was a kind of a weird performance against Bedoya. I think he won I don't know whether it was a split decision or whatever. I was at that fight actually. And it was okay. It wasn't great though. Then he lost a split to Randy Brown. Semmelsberger decision. I don't know. This is I mean, she's certainly fine. I mean, we're going to look at his inside the distance line. It's probably going to see plus 300, which is going to make it worth it. Let's take a look. I mean, chaos inside the distance, like plus 300. But I will say this. I mean, his inside the distance line is no better than Dontel Mays. And Dontel Mays is going to come in at probably half the ownership. Well, I shouldn't say half, because what's Chaos Williams really going to be? 25? And at 25, yeah, maybe Dontel Mays only comes in at 12 or 15. It's possible. So I don't know. I think Cass Williams might be kind of in a weird way, kind of a sneaky fade. I don't know. You have Gabriel Bonfim, and this is, Bonfim fight week. You have both Bonfim fighters coming in here, and he came into the UFC just kind of on a big run. He beat Trey Waters, and that's no joke. I mean, getting a whatchamacallit, a first round sub over Trey Waters, that's a big deal. First round sub over Lazez, first round sub over Trevin Giles. I mean, he was piling it on, and then he ran into Nicholas Dalby, and oh my God, he just either ran out of gas and he just got overwhelmed. So then back to the drawing board, had a decent enough win over Ange Lusa, he's not that great either, but I'm not sure really what to make of him. I'd like to think that he's got a decent takedown advantage here, and that he would go for this against Chaos Williams. but the last time he got takedowns, he lost. So I don't know. When I first looked at this card, I was like, okay, Bonfim, let's play him, get the grappling going. But maybe it's an illusion. Maybe the grappling isn't so great after all. Um, One takedown against Lusa, 77 in a win. I don't know, at 8,900, that's kind of gross. This fight could be kind of a weird fade for me, honestly. All right, now you have Rafael Esteban. So this fight's going to be, as the kids say, this fight could be a banger. Neither of these fighters holds any quarter, so to speak. I mean, Aguiar is going to come after it. Esteban's going to come after it. This is actually a pretty good win over Charles Johnson. I mean, Charles Johnson is tough, and yeah, 9 minutes of control time against Charles Johnson, eked out a win over there. I think before that, he was even more aggressive in some of his other fights. I mean, he KO, a bunch of KOs here. He's going to bring the heat. Um, and then you have Jesus Aguiar, who brings the heat too. He has a lot of guillotine wins. Look at all this in a row: like guillotine choke win, guillotine choke win, guillotine. So all these guillotines, and he actually against Tatsuro Taira as a huge underdog had a had a guillotine sunk in there, but couldn't finish it. And then he got some by his own right, I guess. Um, so then he came in. They were expecting him to go grapple with Shannon Ross. Instead, he just knocked him out in 15 seconds with a punch. Mendonça, kind of a decent win over there. Then another guillotine choke. I think you got to really play both sides here. I mean, if you have a guy who's just really just gets so many finishes, I think you sort of have to play him. So I do like this fight. I like both sides of this. 6,900 is a very reasonable punt. Uh, so I do like both sides of this. I guess fight 8 was the one that was canceled. So that's going to be the Jared Gordon fight. Want to take a look at it just for a second? Let's see if we can't figure out what what's going to happen here. So Jared Gordon does have takedowns, by the way. The over under 2.5 is only -110. That's not very good. That's not a good sign for Jared Gordon at that price. See Ruzabev. I mean, he's just, I don't know any of these people. What I don't like is decision loss, decision win. I mean, against these types of the Naiza Fighter Series daytime battle, losing majority decisions in this promotion. I don't know about any of this. He is only 28, but it just feels as though Jared Gordon's going to win. I don't know. Is he going to get a big enough score? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we don't actually see him here in the list, but he can get takedowns, but I don't think that's what he's going to try. I really do think that he's going to just try to win a striking battle here. So I think that probably DFS wise, the Jared Gordon side's not going to be that great. All right, Angela Hill versus Caitlin Souza. All right, so this fight is something you're going to have to respect. And I learned this the hard way in DFS quite often that when you have these 8,200 8K fights, and you say, well, the pricing's good, but I don't really like the upside. It just doesn't matter. The pricing is just too good. These guys, even if they don't score well, just end up in the optimal so frequently because of the lack of the underdogs you're going to have to play. Like last week, you had Tom Nolan, who, I mean, I played him because I thought that he was going to be has a huge upside, has some huge upside here. Oops, second. Sorry. And so played Tom Nolan, expecting him to have this huge upside, and he won and scored really poorly, and yet he ended up in the optimal anyway. So that's one thing. The other thing that you have to learn is to not underestimate Angela Hill fights. Okay. Um, look at some of her scores. So she doesn't really finish anybody, but she's puts a lot of volume up there. Uh, this Godinez fight, well, that was not a big score, but she had to fend off all these takedowns. Emily Ducote, 182 significant strikes, nuts. She's got a good win over Denise Gomes. She's got 5 takedowns of her own there. Are you kidding me? Pinheiro with the reversal and the sub and all of it. Tabitha Ricci, I was at that fight as well. I mean, like, that fight was a war. I mean, they went at it. Now, she didn't win, but, Tabitha Ricci was just a little bit better. But she's no joke, Angela Hill. I mean, I think she's really, really strong play this week. Ketlin Souza, uh, listen, she's younger. She probably has more upside. She did beat Yaragui with, 2 seconds as a big underdog. This is not the greatest win in the world against Manic Man. She's really bad. So this isn't great, but whatever. I mean, at this price, I got to play this fight. I and just run the risk that the winner doesn't score. For the winner to not be in the optimal at this price tag, I mean, they got to score like. First of all, other big underdogs have to win, obviously, but I don't know. I mean, what are these? What are they going to win? What are they going to score? They're not going to score 80. I've learned not to disrespect the 80 ball from this price tag all too often. So I'm going to play this fight both sides. All right. Okay. We have Jose Delgado against Matthews, and this to me is probably the best of the favorites. I don't think that's going to be a particular surprise either. He's got to end up being, I think, the highest owned uh, of all these guys. I didn't even look at the inside the distance line yet, but I have to imagine it's through the roof, like minus 200 or something like that. Let's see. Wow, only minus 105. This guy's a lunatic. All right, and Matthews is also a lunatic. There is no way that this line doesn't move. He's minus 400 or whatever, and his inside the distance line it's only minus 100. No chance. I mean, this to me, like if I wasn't such a contrarian, I would just pound this. I mean, how is this a good line? I don't know, but I guess in DFS we're not supposed to look at it that way. But even still, minus 120 inside the distance at 9K. He's the cheapest of all these 9K price tags. This is by far, I think, outside of the main event, and maybe even better than the main event. But this is the best play, Jose Delgado. Connor Matthews, I mean, he just doesn't win often enough. I don't think. I mean, he's plus 300 underdog. But when he wins, I bet you he's going to score, right? Let's see his inside the distance line. Oh, plus 700. No, that's by decision. Matthews inside is plus like 520 or so. So that's my 15% of the time. I have to say that I have to get some of it. I just have to. Delgado's going to be the most popular non-main event fighter, and Morales, I guess, and so you're going to get leverage playing Matthews, but Delgado's clearly the best play. I mean, this is really becoming. So if you're looking at who the actual best plays are, this is so far pretty easy. It's Morales, Delgado. And again, we're probably going to want to play that Angela Hill fight. But I don't know. With Morales at 7,100, do we need it? Like, do we need the 8K fight? Probably not. But if you don't play Morales, then you do. All right, let's move on. We have Andre Petroski versus Rodolfo Vieira. This is a tough stylistic matchup for Petrosky, simply because I mean he makes his money being the much better grappler than his opponents. He doesn't really win fights against guys that can grapple even remotely as well as he can. I don't know, Fremd, is he that bad? Yeah, I guess. Um, but he did get smoked by Pereira, got smoked by Malkoun, although it's not a shame to be smoked by Malkoun. But I don't know. I think Vieira is a very rightful favorite here. Question is does Petrosky have the defensive wrestling chops to keep him off his ass? Let's take a look at the inside the distance line. Vieira inside -110. I mean, this is just a strong play. As a matter of fact, I mean, on the numbers, at only 8,800, I mean, he's just as good as Delgado, right? So we're already kind of building a very, very logical kind of cash game core here. Petrosky, I mean, if he wins, here's the thing. If he does, in fact, win, it's going to be because I was wrong, right? And he was able to get these takedowns. He doesn't really do anything with them, though. I don't know. I guess for the same reason that I would play some Matthews, I guess you have to play some Petrosky just because, again, these three plays I'm putting up here are just so obvious, I think, that because of that, that's why you have to play these opponents. I mean, I think you're going to have natural natural leverage by playing not only these three, but the three opponents as well. Okay, Bonfim fight week continues with Ismail Bonfim versus Nazim Sadikov. Ooh, I haven't looked at the line yet. I thought that Bonfim would be a big favorite. Oh my God, if he is a big favorite, 8,400, you're gonna have another big piece of chocolate. Oh, goodness gracious. Yep. So you have Bonfim, who's now -200 against at 8,400. That's rough. Look at his inside the distance. I know. Now, fortunately for the line, he does not have a really good inside the distance line. It's plus actually, wow, this is so weird. So Sadikov has exactly the same inside the distance line as Bonfim. So this is going to be fun because this is clearly a strong money line play. He's -200. Excuse me, he's -200. Yeah, on the money line, and he is only 8,400. Strong money line play, but as far as DFS play with finishing upside, it's not so great. As a matter of fact, Sadikov has the same money line, the same inside the distance line. And what's his price? He's 7,800. The problem is, although his price is a little bit too high, even for his inside the distance line, it's close enough to justify playing him as a leverage play. So again, very similar. Well, these are fun fights actually from the way I look at things. So the Sadikov Bonfim fight is another one that you're probably going to want to play both sides. Don't expect too much upside here, but you get leverage if from Sadikov. Bonfim kind of safe. I think this is a very interesting card. So let's put these forward. So these four so far represent, I think, the easy kind of low risk approach. And we're going to have to play someone from the main event here as well. We'll get there. Dylan Butka versus Edmund Shabazian. Let's compare. I mean, it looks similar, right? 9,200, big favorite, -360, whatever. So let's just compare inside the distance line. So Shabazian is inside the distance. What is this? -130. So very similar to these other turkeys, Shabazian, Delgado, Vieira. I mean, all three of them look really, really good. Um, so let's put him as kind of a good play as well. Budka just doesn't really win too often. And this is the problem. Problem here is that Morales is just 7,100. He's going to be just so popular, you know. But this is what the cash lineup is going to look like, something like that. Okay. Now we get to the last of these. Yusuf Zalal versus Calvin Cater. 9,400. And 9,400, you need to really get there. You know, we're not talking about 9K anymore. Now we're talking about 9,400. Um, um, so let's take a look. See what Zalal is going for him is he doesn't only have a good inside the distance line, but he's going to have some grappling upside as well. So let's take a look here for a second. Zalal inside is actually very poor at plus 260. So even though Zalal does have takedown upside, I don't think that's enough at 9,400 for him to get there. So I think that he is going to be much worse, I think, than these other three. I think that the Shabazian, Vieira, and Delgado, maybe not even in that order. I think actually Shabazian, just because of his price, is probably the worst of these three. But I think he's definitely better than Zalal, and all these guys are better than Bonfim. Uh, Cater, again, just doesn't win often enough. And then we get to the main event. We have Gregory Rodriguez versus Jared Cannonier. Um, I think that people are going to play both sides of this. Um, you know, Cannonier is obviously he's a decent underdog at plus 190. I mean, he's plus 200, 7,400. He puts up he put up a lot of volume when he's running hot. You know, he's got a lot of experience against much better fighters than Gregory Rodriguez. And Gregory Rodriguez is can be fishy. I mean, he really can. This Bruno Ferreira fight is the one that really just sticks in everybody's mind here. Um, but aside from this, I mean, it really hasn't done anything wrong, you know. So I think that the Cannoneer is going to, going to have the whatchamacallit, the money, the name value. But I mean, look at Rodriguez. I mean, he's got knockouts. He also has takedowns in here. Um, if he were smart, he would go for them and make that his whole path to victory here. But he's not exactly known for having the greatest fight IQ. If Cannonier were less owned, I would say it's a really strong play. And look what it would do. It would like almost perfectly fill out this kind of cash game lineup. Now, again, I don't need to tell you like what one change you can make here to make this lineup work, but we already talked about it. Let's put it that way. We already talked about it in the mid-range. So if you wanted to not play, Bonfim, for example, and play one of those women fighters, for example, that I think would fit, would finish off what could be a good cash game core. Now, again, for GPPs, you just can't play this. It's going way too popular. But what you can do, if you want to play Rodriguez, now what you're forcing yourself to do is take 1,100. You have to remove 1,100 somewhere. So now we have to think about playing these, getting these pivots going. Like instead of playing Bonfim to play Sadikov. And that probably makes some sense. He saves 600 there. Then if you wanted to, just kind of screw around here. Let's say you played Sadikov, little bit of leverage there, 500 down. Now you could take Vieira out, and then you could go down to the Angela Hill fight if you wanted to do that. So there are ways to play low risk pretty easily here. High risk, again, you just have to, you'll have to watch the lineup construction video to see more about that. But I think it's an interesting DFS card because you know what you don't have a lot of. There really is not a lot of takedown upside on this card, which is very rare. What about the Estevan? I know, and I forgot to. So funny when I started talking about these 9Ks, I forgot to remind myself of Esteban. He looked so good in my head before, but let me just see here. Let me go back to this for a second before we wrap this up. Where is that guy? I don't think that he's going to have this. Yeah, I don't think he's going to have it. I don't know. He's minus 110 inside plus takedown upside. Yeah, maybe he's right in there with all these. So it's going to be interesting. We have to wait for the Jared Gordon price to come out, and we'll follow up on this later on in the week. That'll do it for now. Good luck, everybody.